Quarterbacks got to be like dad in the family. 3 words. I got this. There's chaos, tsunamis. I got this. I feel that as a dad in the family. Sometimes I got to step up and go, guys, I got this. Okay? I don't know what leadership looks like. I asked Jimmy Johnson, the legendary Jimmy Johnson, what's leadership? He goes, I don't really know. But I know Troy Aikman was a leader. Okay, Drew Brees is leadership. Drew Brees is leadership. So last year, NFC Championship, bad call against New Orleans. The owner, the fans, the player, crazy. Last night, 2 awful calls go against the Saints. So because of last year, the Rams call keeps them out of the Super Bowl. This organization is on the brink emotionally of man overboard. And then last night, they go into week 1, and they get 2 terrible calls against them. At the end of the half, the clock got butchered by the NFL. And then later, the kicker for the Texans has both feet down. They roll into it, and highly emotional quarterback goes man overboard, and you're done. But Drew Brees, off of last year's NFC Championship, the owner of the Saints is going crazy. The fans, the Saints players, Sean Payton's highly flammable. The whole organization is... And yet last night they get hosed again twice by the officials. But who was the cool guy in the room? Got the ball late. Precision, 3 strikes, managed the clock. Dad's got this. That's leadership. That's why I'm tough on Baker. It's why I'm tough on Johnny Manziel. It's why I can be tough on Cam Newton's emotional roller coaster. The quarterback is different, and I can't define leadership. But those 2 calls last night with the Saints, on top of that call last year against the Saints, the whole city's an emotional wreck. The owner, Sean Payton, screaming, players, former play. I got this. And here is precise and exact Drew Brees. Take a deep breath. I've got to collectively now move us down the field, not worry about these calls, and be as finely tuned as I've been all game. That is leadership. Michael Vick came on the show one time. Remember Michael Vick told the story about he wanted to be one of the guys. Baker wants to be one of the guys. Cam wants to be one of the guys. And Michael Vick learned a lesson from a coach very early.
I remember my second year at Dan Reeves, before the game started, I was, jumping around with the guys and super hyper and just ready for the game and, trying to look like everyone else and trying to just be as excited as, all my teammates. And he pulled me to the side and said, oh, hold up. You're the quarterback. You got to be different. You got to be even keeled. And it felt better. It felt better. And then I allowed the guys around me to be more flashy and flamboyant.
And more emotional.
Price. Yeah, more emotional. I kind of fed off them in that regard and kind of live vicariously through them.
By the way, this league has room for AB and room for T.O. and room for Odell Beckham. I'm not saying the league doesn't have room for it. Not at quarterback. This is why I think Dak Prescott deserves the money. The anthem controversy, the Zeke judicial issues, the pressure and the vanity of Jerry Jones. And Dak's always like, I got this. He's the grown-up. He just takes it. Think about this. So what if Brees was highly emotional last night and comes unglued and gets frustrated with 2 awful calls on the back of that Rams loss? And then they lose last night's game. Do you know who they play next? The Rams. So all week you're going to be asked about NFL officiating. And then you're going to go to Los Angeles on a short week Monday Night Football and lose to the Rams. You're 0-2. No. From the very beginning, remember when I brought Drew Brees on this show? It's about a month ago, and I said, Drew, what was amazing to me is that when the city of New Orleans, the owner of the Saints, the coach of the Saints, the players, the former players, were going crazy on this call, you held a press conference and said, we lost. Looking at tape for next year. And here was Drew Brees explaining why he immediately had to get over it.
New Orleans was hurting. We were all hurting. We were all struggling. But when I made that statement, I was talking to myself as much as I was to anybody else. That was painful. I think it will always be painful. That sting never really really leaves you. But listen, you got one or two choices. You can go in the tank, or you can find a way to have it motivate you and add some fuel to the fire and turn it into a positive somehow, some way.
Don't know what leadership is, can't explain it. That's what it is. When the world around you is highly emotional, you're not one of the guys. You're the guy. I got this. Let me shift to another guy that is the guy, and I just don't know if he's going to be able to say anything within 5 years, Deshaun Watson. He's amazing. Do we all realize this is the Andrew Luck story again? Do we all get it? Forget the fact that they both took college programs that were good, Stanford and Clemson, and they took them to new heights. Forget the fact that they're both super athletic, and forget the fact they play in the same division. Forget the fact that even though they have the worst offensive lines in the league, entering the league, they both win 11 games. That's what Luck did. 11. Deshaun Watson last year, 11. Forget the fact that they both have internal injuries. Andrew Luck had a lacerated kidney. Last year, Deshaun Watson had a partially collapsed lung. Forget the fact that they're both very athletic. The knock on Luck out of college was his arm isn't great. Deshaun Watson doesn't have the ideal, elegant throwing motion. Have you looked at Deshaun Watson's injury history, college and pro? Is he a UFC fighter or a quarterback? Partially collapsed lungs, broken clavicle. It's like Evel Knievel in the 70s. Folks, this is not going to last. It didn't last with Andrew Luck, because here's what Andrew Luck and Deshaun Watson do not have in common. Andrew Luck didn't get hurt in college, and Andrew Luck was bigger and thicker and sturdier. Deshaun Watson doesn't have that frame. Last night, he got sacked 6 times. He got hit 10. He was pressured on almost half the dropbacks. This isn't going to last. We're watching Andrew Luck. By the way, it is so similar to Andrew Luck. When Andrew Luck came into the league, remember, we were all like, his GM's not competent. Deshaun Watson comes into the league, and we're like, oh, his GM, they don't have one. I mean, this is becoming the same story. I mean, nothing against Bill O'Brien, and I like Laremy Tunsil is a nice start. It's a nice start at left tackle. Don't judge him. Don't judge the left tackle too harshly for the Texans. This offensive line's not meshing. We're watching the Andrew Luck story. I mean, the 11 wins, the internal injuries, the offensive line's a disaster. There's no GM or a bad GM. They did the same thing in college. But you start looking now at Deshaun Watson's physical ailment resume. It's starting to look like Andrew Luck's. And the difference is Luck is sturdier. I mean, I'm watching Deshaun Watson last night, and I'm like, you cannot take these many hits. You just can't. You just cannot take these hits. It's amazing. It's the same division, the same O-line issues, the same GM issues, the same hit issues. And by the way, Andrew Luck and Deshaun Watson deserve some criticism both for these hits. Deshaun extends too many plays. Andrew Luck extended too many plays. Deshaun Watson often leaps into defenses and leaps into trouble. Andrew Luck did the exact same. But, man, when you've seen something happen and you can see it happen again, I always tell my kids, you can make mistakes. Try not to make the same ones twice. This is the same division. This is the Andrew Luck story. That a guy, a quarterback, a young quarterback, is carrying a franchise, and it's just not going to end well. This is not going to end well. He's either got to learn to slide, throw it away, or they got to go out and make massive trades to upgrade that offensive line. Because you cannot survive in this league playing the way Deshaun Watson does. And it's sad because, like Luck, he is a all-time talent. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.